एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्द्वैता 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 एतद्द्वैता.
Good evening to you all. We are reaching the final day of our information technology webinar, jointly hosted by Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam, Alappuzha and Kottayam branches of Kerala of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And we have here the faculty CA Narasimhan Elangovan to say about data analytics. In this occasion, I request CA Indu SN, the immediate past chairman of Alappuzha branch, to say the welcome address.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Respected faculty of the day, CA Narasimhan Elangovan, chairman of the Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam, Kottayam and Alappuzha branches of SARC of ICAI, Managing Committee members of the Program Organizing branches and dear members. Good afternoon and welcome to the third day of the virtual CPE program on information technology. I hope everyone would appreciate that data is the new superpower. It is an asset that each and every organization is already having. And the good news is that by analyzing the data and making use of it in the best possible manner, we can achieve n number of expected results. And now to discuss more on this subject, data analytics practical use cases, we are fortunate enough to have CA Narasimhan Elangovan as today's faculty. He is an expert in this subject. Sir, we are really honored to have you with us today, and with much pleasure, I welcome you to this session. I also extend a very cordial welcome to all the members who have joined us online today and wish each and everyone an interesting session ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I will introduce the faculty of the day, Mr. Narasimhan Elangovan. He is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Company Secretary, DISA qualified, CISA qualified. He is a law graduate and he has got so many other certifications and diploma also. CA Narasimhan Elangovan is a practicing chartered accountant, partner of Ken and Company Chartered Accountants, Bangalore. He is a futurist in fintech. He is a futurist, a fintech chartered accountant, and an information system assurance professional. He is an international speaker on IS assurance, artificial intelligence, data analytics, blockchain, RPA, cybersecurity, forensic audit, data and privacy laws. He is a specialist, advisor, and implementer in all these areas. He is also an active user of COSO, COBIT, and related framework for various engagements. He is a regular speaker in international and national conferences on information and technology topics. He was a speaker of ISACA Asia Pacific Conference at Dubai, Bangkok, and Europac Geneva. He has cleared CISA with the top ranking. He is currently a coach, mentor, trainer, author, and presented various seminars on information system audit, COVID-5, digital India, digital analytics, cyber security, to more than 15,000, 20,000 members at various levels. Sir, we are lucky to have you here, and we invite you for the address.
Thank you so much. A very warm afternoon. I hope all of you are doing good and staying safe. Thank you all the branches for inviting me, and special thanks to my good friend Padmanabhan sir for sharing this information, and I'm glad always to share my thoughts. Okay, so what I thought I will do today's session, my dear friends, is I'm sure the last 2 days Anand Jangit sir and Vittal Raj sir gave a lot of thoughts or insights in terms of where we are heading into. Correct. I'm sure many of them would have already started thinking, am I going to be relevant or not? What is it which is going to change? A lot of things are there. So what I am going to do in the next few minutes is I will take you through a practical approach in terms of, in terms of where or what is going wrong, what is the benefit, or what is the utility I have, what is it that I can do, various things like that, and more in terms of, okay, I have my tally data, what is it that I can analyze? I have my Excel data procurement file, how is it I can apply data analytics? And that's my thought process, which I would be taking further. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen. Just give me a minute for that. And so I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so now that things are right, and before that, I hope my audio, video, everything is right, and you're able to hear me through everything good.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So because somebody is saying no sound, so just a little confused on that. I hope everything is all right. Okay. So my dear friends, so how do we look into data analytics, and what are the use cases? And more importantly, how is it that I can, spend some time and practically get started with this analytics is what we are going to look into. So the next session, or, the next couple of hours, my dear friends, we're going to make it very simple. All that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, what is data analytics all about, and how can you practically start to get used to it. Okay. So welcome to this journey on data analytics and use cases, where we'll try to explain or try to go through what these information insights are. Okay, so let me quickly get started. I think introduction about myself was given. I'm a practicing chartered accountant, partner Ken & Company. So I had a lot of interest in sharing my knowledge and thoughts across the forum, across the profession. And analytics is something which I've always been fancied, and always I am fascinated about, and I keep learning something new about it. Again, a general view. The views are merely for the purpose of a general knowledge purpose. I'll be discussing a few tools, etc. So let me make it very clear. These are only for knowledge sharing purpose. No endorsement, but of course there are a lot of utilities. Let us learn from that. Okay, so this is my agenda for today. So first I'll speak about what are the concepts and practice of data analytics. Then I'll quickly explain to you what are the different techniques of data analytics and how it makes sense. Then we'll quickly jump into a demo. And when I use the word demo, these are basically how, practical case studies, or whatever you can call it, specific scenarios, we'll look into it. And last, we'll see how can you decide which data analytics software you have to choose, because there are hundreds of softwares. What is it that you can use? How is it that you can use? And that's what we are going to focus on towards the end. Okay. So, and my dear friends, I'm not going to be speaking about the basics or introduction of data analytics. In case you wish to understand what is data analytics, introduction, etc., I've given you a few YouTube links. This presentation also will be shared with the organizers. Feel free to go through these links, etc. You'll get a lot of information. Otherwise, also on YouTube channel, my Ken & Co channel or Narasimhan Elangovan channel, you'll find a lot of information on analytics. You will get some interesting insights on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the next level. Okay, so the next thing which I'm going to speak about is what are the concepts and practice of data analytics. What is it that is very essential or crucial when it comes to DA? See, we all have realized that the potential of data is something magnanimous. It is so huge, but unfortunately, we have not been using it beyond a certain extent. Let me take a simple example. We have a tally data. The tally data has basically sales and purchases. Normally, I would say 50 to 70% of the data entered in tally is fairly well organized, thanks to the accountants, etc., who are there at the client. There are definitely 30% which is unorganized, not available, etc. Now, let's take an example. You wanted to do a simple analysis. How many mobile phones of a particular product or a particular company was sold? How many mobile phones of a particular product was sold? Now, if you have to analyze that with a fellow who is dealing with mobile phones, or for that matter, you can consider it for bikes, different bikes, car company, different car companies. Can you extract this data from tally? That's a question number one. Of course, the data has to be captured. Most of these companies, what they do, they capture all of this information in the narration. Now, why is this capturing in the narration good or bad? We'll come to it second. If you have captured the data in narration, can we pick up the data from narration and can we do some interesting analysis out of it? It is possible. It is possible. And that is where our next level of analysis comes into picture. Because today, frankly speaking, the way the business is moving, the way things are turning around, people are not very comfortable, or rather, people expect more from that of a professional. If we are merely saying, okay, GST compliance, let's do income tax compliance, let's do TDS compliance, he knows that you are a compliance master. That's the reason he comes to us. But can we do something more with the amount of data which we have about our client? There is definitely interesting things which you can do. And I'll speak about these interesting information in the slides to come. So the concept is basically of analytics is nothing but how data gets converted to action. That's all. That's why we say we want actionable insights. You have a data which is unprocessed. You process it, you get information, knowledge, and then you have the insight and it turns out to action. Remember, the value of data is zero unless you use it. Unless you use it, the value of data is zero. And today we all are speaking that the data is the new oil. Why are such large companies investing in India? There are multiple reasons. Reason number one, the population of India has a hungriness to consume. Reason number two, we generate so many patterns which becomes very good case studies for the entire world. Correct? And third, see the amount of data which we are generating. In fact, it's a matter of it's a fun sort of a fact I can make a mention. WhatsApp and Google servers used to always get hung up between 7 a.m. IST to 9 a.m. IST only because of the good morning messages. That is the amount of data which the Indian as an environment, as an economy, as a population we generate. But are we using that for analytical purposes? That's an interesting question. And the very next most important thing is, can I use them for my profession? I'm doing the GST audit. How can I use data analytics? It is possible. It is possible. We'll come to it towards the end. And let's look practically how in the last 2 years, just 2 years, your own clients you analyze. If you're into a restaurant or if you're into a client who is B2C and he has a tie-up with an e-commerce company, see the amount of data he has. Swiggy sales, Zomato sales, Amazon sales, Flipkart sales, XYZ. Of course, I've just given a few names just to quickly understand. Look into the product mix. He deals with so many different products. We are more concerned about the top line. I agree, total sales. Have we gone one step ahead and have we advised to our clients that this is the product mix, we can actually go ahead and do it? Have we done a marginal costing analysis on that? So there are hundreds of options, but let me tell you, my dear friends, it is only that we have not explored. And let me also reiterate, because I'm sure when I speak with about data analytics, many of them say that all this we are doing, I agree. But the tools which we have now, the amount and quantum of data which we have all significantly increased. And with that, the churn analysis which we can do, my dear friends, is just terrific. Okay, you'll realize it when I speak over a point in time. Next, the consumer preferences are available. I'm not sure how many of them are aware. You can go to Google and download what people near you are searching. Of course, few things the Google gives you free, rest you have to go for a paid plan. You will get to know during lockdown, the most searched item was, of course, coronavirus symptoms, medicines, what to do, etc. One of the most searched item was do it yourself, DIY, do it yourself. You know, many of them wanted to have biryani and they were searching on YouTube or, you know, on this thing, how do I make my own biryani? Correct? Or, you know, a fish curry or whatever. Of course, I'm a vegetarian, but, you know, I leave the menu options to you. Correct? So everybody had so much of search, and the world is now, there's one of the trends which I predict, you know, you can visit my LinkedIn page, you will get some more information. One of the predictions which I'm firmly believing is that the world will very soon head into what is called DIY, do it yourself world. That is why today you have more companies making advertisement about ready-to-eat food. You yourself, of course, there earlier ready-to-eat food was, you know, you bring everything, you just put it in boiling water or oven, you can eat it. That is one style. Second is they're giving you all the masalas and the flavors. You just have to cook and you have to do it. Correct? So the world, the consumer preferences are changing. And today with data, you can analyze all of those. And you can analyze with industry data. I'm not sure how many of them are aware. You know, in US, this is a practical scenario. Let's take an example. I'm a Coke or a Pepsi. Okay, whichever company. Again, nothing against these brands or nothing for these brands. As a cold drink manufacturer, you're obviously excited to know how much is the sales your competitor is making. And I'm sure the competitor would never reveal it as much as you do not want to reveal it. One fellow got to know this as an interesting position. You know what he does? He goes, he's appointed 10 people in one small town. He goes to each and every town or each and every supermarket in that town. And there in the US, the culture of supermarket is obviously extremely high. And this I'm talking about not now, I'm talking about 5 to 10 years back. Now, what he did was he used to go to each of the supermarket and just do a simple thing. Simple stock verification of how much Pepsi, how much Coke is there, write down. Of course, he used to take the permission of the shopkeeper. Okay. And he used to do it on a daily basis, morning and evening. And in the entire town, by end of the day, I have a summary of which product is selling how much. And the best part is, Coke will know how much products they're selling, but Pepsi will not know. Correct? So he started selling this information to Coke or Pepsi. Look at this, what he did. And of course, he started collecting money for it and he paid shopkeeper some amount. Now today, this entire model is done digitally. Why? In an e-commerce, I can track literally everything. In a digital setup, everything is possible, my dear friends, and therefore you are able to track your industry data, competitor data, whole bunch of this. And not to forget your social media. Social media analytics is becoming such an important thing based upon the number of impressions, number of persons who are viewing it. I'll take an example. Now this session is being broadcasted live on YouTube. You have live statistics which appears. And not just that, you have people who are actually analyzing, you can identify what is the sentiment. Lot of things are possible. The IPL is going on now. And you know, in Hotstar, I think it's streaming live if you have a subscription, etc., etc., or in the Star Sports network. So people are able to analyze how much is the viewership. They're doing so much of analytics based on that. And not to forget our organized data, which is our traditional ERP system. It could be the sales, purchase, expense, income, whatever you can call it, the traditional ERP setup. Then we are having geospatial information with respect to geographies. And Google Trends, I think I spoke about. So the data sets, my dear friends, have grown significantly. So if we are looking purely from a audit purpose, maybe 10-20% of this also we don't use. But if you are looking into a consulting, advisory, I think this is where we have interesting domains. And let me tell you, for analyzing all of this, okay, how much ever you may have understood Python, R, etc., which are all languages to analyze data, you have to have functional knowledge. So technology guy will be able to he'll be able to convert what into what, how to analyze everything he'll be able to do. But what to analyze, he will not do it. I'll give you a simple example. Somebody can do a correlation regression analysis and try to compare the malnutrition rate in Africa compared to the rainfall in America. And both of them may show a perfect correlation combination, a skewness factor of 1, or a correlation coefficient of 1. But then comes the interesting question, are they both related? The answer is no. This is where the brain of a chartered accountant is required. That is the domain expertise we carry. And all that we have to do is top up our mind or our knowledge with some bit of technology skills. It's not expected that you should know how a blockchain works end to end. You may not do a programming on blockchain, but you should know what blockchain is. You should know what are the repercussions is. Likewise, the data analytics also, we need to understand what it is. Remember, once I've completed my session, you have multiple options which I'll also speak about. But the focus, my dear friends, is for you to get an idea, what is it that I can do with the data? Correct? And typically data, you have 4 set of things which you normally do. And most of us are stuck with descriptive analytics. Correct? And if I have to, this was the latest song which I started singing in one of my sessions, and I thought I'll make a mention. And this will actually give you a good thought process. I'm sure you have one song in Hindi movie. It says, "Ye kya hua?" That is descriptive analysis. You are saying what happened. Correct? Kaise hua? Diagnostic analysis. Kyun hua, kya hoga? All of these are predictive and prescriptive analysis. And the last one, what you see, is cognitive, also sometimes referred to as adaptive. This is what is machine learning and other things coming into picture. Correct? So it is more historical nature. Our Excel pivot sheet will help you out for a lot of these descriptive analytics. Diagnostic is more some bit of what if segmentation, your goal seek, all those things probably. Of course, goal seek will come a little onto the predictive. Why it happened, those are diagnostic. Then you have predictive analytics, introspection, forecast, trends. What is it that I can do? And then you have prescriptive analytics. How do you recommend? In Excel, you have an option called Scenario Manager. I'm not sure how many of them are using it. Those are handy things. And last is where machine learning, to some extent, you have a function called Solver. It's an add-in to Excel. Okay, so those can be used to solve complicated problems. So my dear friends, analytics is there at every step. And trust me, you don't require necessarily a large tool to analyze simple information. Even the human mind can analyze it. Let's simple example. Go back to your good old school days. Some mischief would have happened at home, and by seeing what is the scenario at your home, your parents or your grandparents will say something has gone wrong or something, is some sort of an indicator. But they have got so much amount of wisdom in terms of the past data, they're able to identify this. And today, if we are a fresher, if we are a youngster, nothing wrong. No doubt the experience of senior professionals are going to come into picture. But where we as a youngster, where we as emerging professionals can add value is, what is it that I can do something different? Correct? How is it that I can analyze this data better? So today, quickly, I'll look into a few practical case studies on how you can use analytics for assurance and compliance, and you will get an idea. Of course, there's an audit of procurement, which we're going to spend a few minutes from now. And let me also explain to you, I think I told you about descriptive analytics, diagnostic. You can see a chart over here. Visualization is also something very critical when it comes to data analytics, and we'll be spending some time on how to create these interesting visualizations and charts. And for that, we also need to know what is the type of chart, where, when, how you need to use it. Depending upon time, I will touch upon this. Okay, now comes an interesting bucket. A few models of data analytics. When I use the word few models of data analytics, I'm saying how can you analyze or how can you model your data? The first and foremost type you can probably call is a classification analysis. What we do with data is you classify them into clusters, strata, grouping, and I'll show you how this happens in an Excel spreadsheet, how you can create interesting groups. Okay, so those are things which are possible. It attempts to find variables that are related to a categorical variable, often a binary, some sort of a variable. Second, segmentation. You're actually grouping. When you say you're grouping, what happens in the case of a segmentation is you're pulling them together. Correct? And here it could be a combination of qualitative attributes or numerical attributes itself. Correct? So you do some sort of a cluster. You try to identify where the data is more concentrated. And today we'll show you how that actually works. Then you have what is called market-based analysis. Okay, this is more to understand where the geography of the product is, which location they are, all of those. And then you have the regression analysis. This is where A versus B, B versus C. You sort of fit it into an equation, see how the relationship operates. So let's spend some time to see what are the different analytical techniques. And these are a few examples which you can see on the screen. And example number 1, calculation of statistics. Average, standard deviation, highest, lowest, all these are available. Example 2, classification to identify patterns. You can classify based on data sets. Third, stratification based on numerical information. This I'll practically show you in Excel and using a data analytics software. Then you can apply certain analytical functions, which is like Benford's law. What it does is that this gives you the next level of confirmation of your data. What is a Benford law? Again, I'll cover it a little later. Duplicate testing, identifying the duplicates. Gap testing, summing up the numerical values, validating the rules. So whole bunch of these exercises, my dear friends, you can actually do it. And trust me, this can bring a whole lot of time saving. Okay, so some of these functions you may already be using, some of them you may probably have a different way in which you're using it. We can probably relook into it. We'll spend some time on that side. So what I'm going to do now is, first and foremost, I'm going to start off with Excel-based data analytics. Then I'll go into Tally-based data analytics. I will also see if I can show you a data analytics tool separately. And depending upon time, visualization, either a Power BI or Zoho BI software, I will try to show you through it. Okay, so let's quickly jump into a practical session. And here I will be using a Excel spreadsheet. Okay, can I request you to confirm if my Excel spreadsheet is visible?
Yes, visible.
Fantastic. What I'll do is I have some sort of a tested data set over here, which can actually do some bit of analysis. And I find one table over here called as data consumption. Okay, see, one of the bigger problem, of course, this is just a simple data set just to get started. One of the bigger challenges which we always face with the data is that the data is in a very, very distorted form. A classical example, you go for a bank audit, you ask them to give a bank statement, you notice that the bank statement is in this form. You realize that, column, spacing, tab, all these things are issued. The best thing which you can do, my dear friends, is in these sort of scenario, please have them copy pasted into an Excel spreadsheet. The biggest question is, how do I get the data into an Excel spreadsheet? And for that, you have a very interesting option called data, an option called as get data. So a very, very less explored option. You can say, no, sir, I will simply go over here, copy this information and come over here and paste it. You are right. You have another method called get data, get from a file, from a text or CSV. And when you're doing it, my dear friends, this pulls in data from a particular source, and that is also an alternative method which you can consider. Okay, so I choose the path and sort of place it over here. I have data consumption units. And the moment I do this, it is actually pulling the data from there to here. And this is where Excel is using what is called as a Power Query, a very powerful function. That's why I do not import the data in the traditional format of a copy paste. This is very handy whenever you're having data in a format which you want to analyze, you want to do a whole lot of these things, it is possible. You can obviously load this data or transform this data depending upon requirements. I will probably jump into that. For the time being, I will use a simple copy paste approach to sort of, get this information over here. Okay. Now that I've got this information over here, I expand the cells. I realize that all of them are in a single cell, and often we face this. And what is it that I can do to split them into multiple text? I'm sure most of you will give me a standard answer that we will do text to columns. So therefore I will quickly go to text to columns. And when I click on text to columns, you have two methods of doing it: delimited and fixed width. Correct. Please note, some of you might find me finding this as very, very basic. Hang on, I will go into the advanced level one step at a time. Correct. Baby steps will quickly go ahead. So I first choose fixed width, because if I see the entire data set, I realize that there is some sort of a commonality over here. Look at this particular line. All the data is getting split before this line and after this line. Okay. So if I just go ahead and say fixed width, I just double click it. Please note here, my entire data set is actually getting split out here. So we are able to notice that it is actually taking place. Correct. So I just do this first split and I split this data. Now, once I've done with this, it is merely a serial number. One very important thing which we always do is, when we split the text to data, we do not actually define the data attributes. And for those of you who do not know where split text to data is, click on Data tab. You have an option under Data Tools called as Text to Columns. So please click on Text to Columns. And here I chose a fixed width. And I've chosen this fixed width. I remove this. Very important. Please choose this and choose the string as text. Why? You do not want to total the serial number column. Correct? So choose it as a text. And once you're done, please click on finish. You have the first column split. Now, why did I not choose the same way for splitting this information? The reason is because the moment if I choose fixed width, okay, see what happens. The data is actually not getting correctly split. Or maybe in few cases it is getting split, not in all cases. And assuming I kept another filter over here, are you able to notice that some data is over here, some data is over there? And this is where, my dear friends, we will go one step ahead. We can no doubt use delimited feature, and you can say a space and give it a try. But look at this, if I give a space, what happens? How the data is getting split. Correct? You can obviously choose a tab, okay, or you can choose a semicolon depending on how the text is split, but all of them create trouble. And this is where, let me tell you, I'm going to use a powerful function called flash fill. It is the embedded artificial intelligence built into your Excel. Okay, so all that I will do is I'll write unit, and here, or rather you can ignore this, I can just write 3 unit. Okay, I hit enter, 5 unit. Okay, and I just do Control E, my entire data is filled. I didn't do anything. I just did Control E, my data is filled. This is a powerful function called as a flash fill. Based on the way you have filled the previous 2 columns, the subsequent columns in the table, it actually gets filled. Correct? So that's a huge advantage. Then I have this 24 March 2019, 15 August 2019, correct? And I just do Control E again. You notice that my entire data set gets automatically filled. And let me tell you, remind you, this is the power of AI which is being used in Microsoft Excel. Okay, and let me also tell you, the first time you will do it, you will not get it completely right, because the data requires some time to get tuned and to understand. For example, if over here there are 2 spaces and over here there is only 1 space, first Excel presumes that you are splitting the data based upon the column or the place where your if I could probably call it the where the line is, or after how many characters it is. But little later Excel understands you're not going based on the character string, you're going by the text what is there. Correct? And then of course I can do the last thing, 0.384, correct? And then I do 1.201. And you will also notice that the moment I type 1, you will notice that my entire column is ready. Correct? That's how quickly it is possible, my dear friends, which is actually what I'm talking about. Okay, so the first step when it comes to data is to cleanse the data. Remember that always. Of course, this time I am choosing to go less with PPT, more with live data, so that you're able to get an idea about it. Okay, so here I will write the unit name. I will write the date. and here I'll write the consumption. Now I will slightly change this data a little later. You will understand this. The principles of this is what I'm going to be interested on. Last column is not relevant. This column is not relevant. So I have my data set which is already ready. Now, next thing what you should do is whenever you're starting with your data, please ensure you save the file and save the sheet. So let me quickly save this. For simplicity's sake, I will put it into a temporary folder. Let's say DA case study. Okay, and then what I do is I choose this entire data and I insert a table. The moment you insert table, let me tell you, my dear friends, this is such a powerful feature where by default, so many things you will get from it. I'm not sure how many of them are aware. You have features where in table design, you can do a lot more things. I'll come to it in a quick span of time. A simple example could be, you can just do the sum of this data. All that I did was I just went over here, correct? I just pressed Alt plus. The moment I do Alt plus, I get this information. Others also, if you go to the table design, you have an option where you can click the total row will automatically come. Okay, the moment I click on this total row, not just can it give me the totals, it can also give me very interesting information. It can give me average, it can give me count, it can give you sum, it can give you standard deviation, it can give you variance as well. You can do a lot more functions, correct? Hyperlink, COUNTIF, max, a bunch of these functions are available. It's only for you to sit and explore. Okay, you can copy paste it and use it for various purposes and name it over here. This is the sum, and do the next exercise. Minimum is how much, maximum is how much. And this function, my dear friends, is called as column statistics in data analytics. We'll come to that a little later from now. Okay, so now that I know this information available, what is the next thing I can do? I go back to my data set. I have one more thing called as units. Okay, and if I quickly look into my units, I have some information over here. I will quickly paste them into a fresh sheet. Okay, and it has some information with respect to minimum pass marks. Correct. So I will just write the unit name here and pass marks. Okay, I will come back to how it can be used for audit a little later. You'll have to give me some time. I'm taking multiple different case studies, basics, and then we're going to the next. So what I do over here, a very popular function which most of us know how to do it, but I will reiterate it for everybody's interest. It's called as a lookup. A lookup is a simple function which says, if I have 3 unit over here, what is the description of 3 unit in this particular sheet? Okay, I understand the 3 unit description is hormones and the pass mark is 50. So I want the name of that unit over here. So what I do is equal to VLOOKUP. I click on 3 unit, comma, go to sheet 2 and choose this entire data text. Very important, choose F4, which is constant, which is comma 2, comma 0. Why do I choose comma 2? Because I want the second column, and 0 is because I want a true match or a absolute exact match. Okay, so here I've written the unit description. The moment I've done this, my dear friends, let's quickly go to the pass mark. In the pass mark, what I will do, I will write again is equal to VLOOKUP. I choose the unit number again, then come back, comma, right? Go to the next spreadsheet, click on this entire data set, F4, and choose the third column this time, 3, 0. 0 refers to an approximate match. Alternatively, you can use a true as well. So when you give a false, you're referring to an exact match. Okay. So once it is done, we are done with this step. So what did we do? We got our data into some shape for doing some basic analysis. Now that we have this information, what is it that we can do for analysis purposes? We of course have the filter, correct? Many of us are not aware in filter there are interesting options. Okay, an option where you can say date filter, you have a bunch of functions like this: before a particular date, after a particular date, today, tomorrow, whole lot of these things. Those of you are doing quarterly reporting, year to date reporting, you have functions like a little later year to date as well. Okay, all dates in the period range. You can also pick and choose which month it is. Many of the time we keep struggling, right? If I have to filter for April or May, I go here, type April, correct? So those things are definitely possible, but what happens is that, you know, these are of course possible. I'm using the latest version of Excel, Office 365, or which is today called as Microsoft 365. If you're using Office 2019 also, you get the same features. The few features before that may not have a few of these features, but a bunch of them is already available. Okay, so now that this is available, I can obviously filter them, exclude them, all these basic checks. Then of course I have unit description, pass mark. So I have my initial set clean. Now what I can do out of this is I need to take up samples out of it. Now how do I pick up samples out of it? You know, this is the transaction, I want to pick up samples out of it. Now the first and foremost, most of us, what we do, we go to every 10 or, you know, some random things, we go pick it up. That is not called as random sampling. Okay, to some extent it is like a judgmental sampling. A random sampling is preferably by usage of random numbers. So how do I know how to use a random numbers? So I create a rand column over here. I say is equal to RAND, bracket open, bracket close. Okay, the moment I say this, look at this, some random numbers are generated. In fact, it is so very random that if I just press F2 and hit enter, all the numbers will change. Do you notice that? All the numbers are changing. Now what we will do, because these are changing every time I do something, I will copy this data and I will paste special this data so that the formula is removed over here. Then what I will do is, from this rand, I'll go click on number filter and I'll simply say top 10. What is the relevance of top 10? It really doesn't matter. Why? Because these are random numbers. Correct? So this is how you can pick up random sampling and you can document them for your analysis purposes. Okay, so this is something from a data analytics is a very handy technique for audit purposes. Okay, now that this is over, what do you intend to do with this data? You obviously require to do some bit of summarization, visualization, correct? And the second thing which, or you know, one more thing in a table which is very handy, let me tell you, is a feature called as a slicer. When you click on a slicer, my dear friends, slicer is nothing but a dynamic filter. Okay, let's say for example, I click on unit description. I have all the unit descriptions over here. Okay, so what this does, my dear friends, is the moment I click on any one of these items, look at this, automatically the filter is applied over here. Okay, and this is dynamic. The reason why I say dynamic is because I can choose more than one of the possible data set. And let me also remind you, I can have multiple slicers. Correct? I can have multiple slices. For example, I can have pass mark also as a slicer. So I want to know only those subjects which 50 mark is the pass. Only those cases where 10 mark or 10 or 50. Correct? So you can do a whole bunch of these, and I'm not sure how many of them are aware. These slicers can also be formatted. Correct? You have the slicer information over here. You go click on the slicer menu. You have an option called columns. So just click on 3 columns. So it gives you some information like this. So you can always shorten this and give a nice view of your data. Correct? So of course, if you make it too small, it obviously becomes a challenge. You cannot do those things, but definitely what you can do is you can bring them into shape by doing simple methods like this. Correct? And of course, you have an option of color coding, combinations, and various fancy things like this. So my dear friends, this is a simple way in which you can actually start looking into your data. Now that you have got a fair bit of idea how these slicers work, let us go to the next stage. Okay, the next stage, my dear friends, is how do I use this into analyzing information? And for that, I am going to convert this data into a pivot table. Before I go into a pivot table, let me show you how Excel has a powerful function called artificial intelligence built into it. And for that, I go to my home tab, and this is called ideas. I go to my home tab, I click on ideas. So the moment I click on ideas, you will notice that Excel analyzes this data automatically and it gives you some interesting insights and information. And let me tell you, my dear friends, when I say interesting insights and information, it is automatically calculated. Look at this. Look at this. Can you see this sort of automatic calculation? So for example, if I just click on this, okay, it says that it has summarized the entire data based on the consumption and it is giving me this information. It is in fact sorted and given me also the data. All that I need to do is click on this and say insert a pivot table. It is automatically doing. This is the future of our audit. This is the future of our profession. Machines are going to do things for us. Imagine if I had to sort this. I used to take 3 to 5 minutes. Today my machine is doing it. But understand, machine has limitations. Machine has also summarized sum of rank. Are you noticing it? This is a classical example to say at any given point of time, a machine cannot override the intelligence of a human being. You created the RAND function only for a specific purpose. Do you want to have the sum total of RAND? The answer is no. And this is where, let me tell you, my dear friends, if you remember in the step 1, I said, please ensure your Excel data. Okay, please ensure your Excel data that serial number is converted to text. If you do not convert the serial number to text, you will have an option over here, sum of serial number. You and I know that the serial number is not a useful number, but the system understands that to be a quantitative value, it will present it. Correct? So that's basically how you can actually move on. Let's go to next step. You know, there is something which is over here and inserting a pivot chart. Okay, and it inserts the pivot chart automatically. Look at this. It gives you a pivot table and it also gives you a chart. Correct? Useful. Yes or no? And I didn't do anything. Imagine how much time I spent for this, just a matter of few minutes. Not even a few minutes, I think a few seconds. I just formatted and I got it into that shape. Correct is automatically doing this. And I'm not sure how many of them would be understanding this. It is giving me some interesting insights. What is this insights? It is saying that your consumption is having a pattern. Look at this. It is having a pattern. What is the pattern? Initially, for some days, it is between 30 to 40. February, it comes down. April, it becomes the least. May, it picks up. Correct? So it is showing a pattern. Now, tell me, if we had used a conventional audit technique, do you think it was easy for us to identify this pattern? No. I am not saying you will not identify it. I'm saying, can you identify it so very easily? And let me also remind you, it's not that my software called as Excel alone has this feature. Everybody has this feature. But if I give you the same data and if you try it, your software may or may not give the same result. Why? Because you have to train your system. You have to train your information. I'm not sure how many of them have read your Microsoft policies. It says we collect data about the way you analyze. And that's why if you notice over here, I have an account, correct, in the top corner. And that account is linked with mine and it is capturing certain information. And that information, my dear friends, it is actually analyzing it. And you also have much more results. Look at this. Pass mark 30 and 60 have noticeably higher consumption. Now, this is called as insights. This is called as insights. Those who have a pass mark of 30, of course, this pass mark is not at all relevant for us. Imagine I replace this pass mark with the subscription rate. Let's say I'm talking about Netflix consumption or Amazon Prime consumption. I am saying that those who are in the 30 to 60, that means those who are paying more are consuming the maximum. But then it comes an interesting question. Why is those who are paying 40 and 50 not consuming? That is where you will advise your management. Perhaps either have a full package or a half package. The semi-quarter package is not making sense. Correct. Look at the frequency of consumption. If I click on this and insert one more chart, okay, it is done this frequency of consumption and it is giving you this insight over here. Please notice over here, it just gives you what is the frequency of consumption based on the number. Okay, look at this. It has automatically stratified the data, and I'll show you how to do the stratification manually. But yes, it has stratified the data. Go a little down. It has sum of rand. Rand is no longer relevant. Rand is not relevant, so I ignore. Frequency of rand. Rand is no longer relevant, so I will just. So, my dear friends, this is the point which I want to make a mention. By just upgrading the tools to a limited extent, see how much of analytics Excel can give you. And I've not done anything. I just have 3 columns over here. In fact, I have unit number, unit name, and I have consumption and date. In fact, what it is can probably give me next is it can also analyze, maybe after a few more months, this automatic analysis will actually do month-based analytics and give it to me. Correct. As of now, it is not able to do. Let me see if I can show you how to do the month-based analytics. So we already have the data. Of course, I'm going to delete this. Correct. So now what I'm going to do is I go to data tab. I say get data, and I quickly say, of course, sorry. I go to this insert tab. Sorry. Click on pivot table. The pivot table is a summarized table. The table which you can customize it and dynamically use the way you want it. And let me tell you, it's a very, very powerful function. Very, very powerful function. Okay. So what can you do with a pivot table? You can simply bring your unit name and you can simply bring your consumption. Of course, instead of unit name, I will say unit description. So you have this entire information. Now, what can you do out of it? Right click this, correct? You can actually see the values in totality. No, sir, I don't like this. I want to have a top-down approach. So click on this arrow, sort options, descending order, sort based on sum of consumption. You have this information ready. Sir, I don't like this. Right click, okay? Right click this information, show values by count. All of them are giving 730. Why? This was the data which I had created on manually. Okay, so that is the reason. But anyways, so 730 information is there. Okay, right click this data, summarize value by average. This is the average consumption. Right click this information, summarize value by maximum information. Right click this data, summarize value by minimum. You get your minimum information, and likewise you have all of this. Should you wish to have everything in one pivot, that is also possible. But what you have to do is you have to keep on dragging this information and pushing it over here. So you have minimum, now you have count, again drag it. Correct, right click this, summarize value by sum. So you have the sum, count, you can keep on deciding what you want to. Correct, so that's basically how you actually, sorry, I think I have to drag the consumption, sorry. Okay, so you have sum of consumption, again drag the consumption. You also have very interesting thing, right click this, summarize value, show as a percentage of the parent total. Correct, and the parent total is unit description. Okay, sorry, I think I have to show it as a percentage of, correct. So you can also get this interesting insights in terms of how you want this information to be presented. Correct. So it can give you how much of this information, correct, is minimum, maximum. Now if you had this information, you can do a Pareto analysis. Correct. So you bring in this consumption over here once again. And what you do is right click, summarize value by count. Correct. And you can also right click this unit description. Correct, and right click this information, show value as a percentage of row total. So you have a Pareto analysis. Correct. So this is one level in which we can use a pivot. The second level in which you can use a pivot is, again, this session, I understand many of you, let me clarify, analytics is all about how you get insights from your data. Correct. So that's why I'm trying to come through from different angles. Now the second angle I'm going to bring in is the date field. When I bring the date field, look at this, my feature which I've built in, or because the feature which I keep on using by default has grouped this entire data into months, and I can put or rather insert the consumption over here, and I have month-wise consumption, correct? And all that I have to do is, if I want a chart, go to Home tab, or go to Insert tab. I have an option called a Pivot Chart, and I just say, give me this month. This is enough for me. And trust me, visualization can bring in a lot many things in your data. A simple total like this, so you know how things are actually changing. Now you don't like this name of sum of consumption coming up, right click on this, just write hide all field buttons. You have only information. You don't like this total, remove this. You don't like these lines, remove them. Sorry, you just click on these lines and you can remove it. But the only problem is when you remove it, it is always recommended that you insert the if I could call it as the data label, and then remove the grid lines. You can go ahead and remove even your x-axis. See how it is. And you can also bring in a feature where you can make these charts dynamic. I'll show you how to make this charts dynamic a little later. And I can simply give a heading over here, total consumption. Correct? And this, my dear friends, gives you a lot of information about this. But if you feel this chart is not able to give you the right picture, you want to change the chart, you have hundreds of options. Correct? The question is, have we explored them? Have we sort of, explored these options? So just click on change the chart type, and you can always use a line chart, with specific points. So you get to know what the pattern is. Now this is handy whenever you're comparing multiple years. Now see what I'm going to do with this data. I'm going to have a zoom feature into this data. What I'm going to do is right click this data in the month, and you have an option called as group. Click on group, and the moment you click on group, you can also group the data by quarters. Please be careful. It will group the data. When I say based on quarters, it will give based on the calendar quarter. Okay, so I do not want the date. So I go click on group the data, and I just remove days. So I have this information ready. Correct? So this, my dear friends, you can do hundreds of things onto this particular system. You just have, a bunch of these features. You just have to sort of get started using to them. Correct? So if you want, all that you will do is right click on this, click on group, remove months. You have your quarterly data. No, you want a month and group together, click on group, click on months, you have this information. Of course, it's only 1 year, so you have this information. Now, if you want both the things to appear at the same time, that is possible. I had deleted one option, so let me redo that. So I just go click on recommended charts. This line tab. And do you notice a small zoom in feature over here, or a plus feature over here? Correct. Now this is the feature where you can zoom in and zoom out your data. Do you notice this? Correct. So there are hundreds of options. The question is only we have to go ahead and give it a try. Correct. So you can go ahead and decide what level you want to zoom in and zoom out. You can sort of do it. And my reports, when I give you, especially my internal audit reports, I make it so very dynamic. In fact, I tell the system, or I tell my clients, saying that, hey, you know what, I will give you a Word report, and I'll give you an Excel report, and I'll take you through how you should be looking into your Excel report. You can make your data so dynamic. Correct? And you can click it in such a way, you double click one data, your entire data set moves or alters. All of those are possible. So that is something which I wanted to cover. And the last thing which I'll do probably from Excel and a pivot angle is, let me quickly show you how this data can be stratified based on value. So I click on pivot data. Until now, what I did was the consumption was always in values. Now what I'm going to do is consumption I'm going to draw to the rows. You might be wondering, sir, what is the point of this? Here is the point. Right click this and group them, and just mention by default 5 groups, let us say. Okay, for simplicity's sake, here you go. Correct? Okay, sorry, I think I gave the class interval as 5. Sorry. Click on group it by 1. Okay. So you have 5 to 6 class intervals. What is the meaning of this? This means those who consume less than 1.04 MB or GB of data is the maximum compared to the rest. Now, can you do this product sales analysis? Can you do for your internal audit or your statutory audit, which is the rate at which the consumption is increasing or decreasing? Which is what is the growth rate between one class interval and another class interval? Correct? The only limitation in Excel is all these class intervals will be of uniform size. If you use analytical softwares, you can create them with multiple buckets as well. Now you can bring this bucket. What you can do is your consumption, you drag it over here and you have the count of your consumption. Look at this. So you know 6,727 out of 8,760 is constituting to this. All that you do is right click, summarize, show value as percentage of total, right click, show value as a percentage of parent row, and repeat this over here, right click, show value as a percentage of parent total. You will get this. Correct? So now you can see that 44% is the consumption, 77% is the count. Now you realize that this is where you need to spend most of your time for doing the audit. And when you spend most of your time for doing the audit over here, you can realize how best you can actually save time. Double click this, okay? Or, just click on these attributes and you have your rand function, click on this number filter and just say top 10, you will be able to do it. Correct? So that is how quickly you can do it and how fast it is possible, my dear friends. And that is something which Excel can offer. And trust me, I just spoke about few features from an Excel which you can pick up a case study. Let's quickly jump into my second case study. Again, please note, as I told, I'm showing a practical. I'm trying to keep it as pragmatic as possible, having very limited amount of involvement of PPT. While I sip my black tea, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. If the pace is good, if you're finding it interesting, insightful, please drop in a message in the chat window. Are we good to go?
Please be careful with the audio. We have unmuted all.
Okay. So in case anybody you have to speak, I think you'll have to drop a message in the chat window. I think that's the best option. Okay, while the questions are pouring in slowly, what I will do is I'll quickly jump into my next case study, which I wanted to take you through. And for this, let me use one of our favorite softwares, which all of us like it, and that's Tally. Okay, and while it's just loading, just hang on a minute. So I have a simple data set here. I hope my Tally screen is clear. You're able to see this. I have an option called as Audit and Compliance. Many of them would not have this feature enabled in Tally. It's a very, very powerful feature. You can build in a lot of analytics functions in this. Okay, now how do I enable this? All that you have to ensure is click on Alt F3, which most of you know what Alt F3 is, right? So if you click on Alt F3, you get your company info. Please click on Alter. Ensure you have a security configured over here. If the security is configured, this is fantastic. Okay, so we just go back, escape. So I have this information over here, which is handy. Now what I'm going to do, my dear friends, is that I will quickly go click on this Audit and Compliance module. The moment I click on Audit and Compliance module, you have a bunch of these features: documentation, journals, and financial statements. I will leave you to explore this, but what I find very, very handy is this tab called as Audit and Analysis. Okay, so this audit analysis has got so many very interesting and exciting features. An example of one of the features is audit of chart of accounts. Okay, before that, let me also change the accounting period, because so that you will get the right view. I think I have data stored from A12 to M13, and I go click on audit and compliance. I go click on audit analysis. I have this information. So I have what is called as verification of chart of accounts. What I do is the moment I click on verification of chart of accounts, it gives me a very simple but a powerful statistics. And this is nothing but a column statistics feature. In case of Tally, we can call it as a ledger statistics. It tells me how many ledgers have not been used vis-a-vis how many ledgers have balances and no transaction. So if you go click on this quickly, you realize that, okay, sorry, I think my financial year is not yet changed. So I am going here, A12, M13. Let's quickly go to the balance sheet. Let's quickly go to P&L. Yes, yeah, it's better. So I go click on compliance, audit and analysis. I go click on okay, I go click on verification of chart of accounts, and can you notice over here 5 categories are appearing. Accounts squared off during there. That means what? The debit and the credit equally the entries have been passed. So if I just go here and see, I find a bunch of these entries where the debits and credits are equal. It didn't have an opening balance and closing balance. In a forensic terminology, we call these as pass-through accounts. A pass-through account is a scenario where the fund goes from one channel to another channel merely to disguise the source and the destination. For example, I wanted to make a payment to Computer Point from bank. So what I do is from bank I show it as BBMP, and from BBMP I show it to Computer Point. You're not going to identify that the money has gone through that channel. Correct? So in a click of a button, my dear friends, you can get to know these sort of cases. There have been a few cases where we had to do forensic investigation and we had to use only Tally data. All that I did was I used these tables and I was able to get some interesting insights. Remember, we as professionals will have to do more with very limited time. Let's quickly go ahead. Number of ledgers not used. In my experience, and I'm sure most of you would agree, the most commonly not used ledger is the audit fees ledger or the CFE payable ledger. Correct? It remains as it is. Jokes apart, but yeah, this is something which is there. Second, only balances, no transaction at all. Imagine if debtors were available here. You have to write them off, correct? So that's some interesting analytics insights which you have. Revenue ledgers having opening balances. A classical example could be prepaid expense, prepaid insurance, things like that. Many a times accountants would have reclassified or regrouped. Then you have what is called only used in the current year. So these are the ledgers which have been using in the current year. Correct? And you have all of this information. And the better part of this is you can click on them and you can say what is the status. You can say on hold, mention the reason why it is hold, verification due. So you have this much amount of information which is available and really ready-made. Okay, imagine if you have to get this information from your Excel, from your Tally data, export to Excel and do all this analysis. I think you're going to spend so much amount of extra time. So my way of looking into analytics is try to see how these tools which have ready-made can do a lot of your work and save time instead of you sitting and spending so much time on any data. Okay, so the same way you can do for stock items. I'm not going to show you that. Verification of balances, that's quite similar to your trial balance, except for the fact that you can mention whether you're verified, not verified, etc. Analytical procedures, your ratios, your ratio of interest is to principal, balances, group is to group, ledger is to ledger. You can do a bunch of those exercises. Statutory payments, again, this is provided you've configured the statutory payment, you can do it. Periodical payments and receipts and repeated transactions. So if you find a transaction happening multiple times, they generally tend to appear here. And repeated transactions, I think, is of the same value. For example, there is EDLI commission, EDLI contribution at 0.5, which is appearing 16 times. Ideally, it should appear only 12 times, maximum 13 if last year or this year, one more extra is being paid, etc. So why is 16 appearing here? I find Kavita's rent 18 times. Ideally, it should be 12, correct? Less than 12 is okay. Maybe, parts of the period is taken. So you have a lot of exceptions which you can analyze by just looking into it. And this is my personal favorite, relative size factor. It's a very powerful analytical function. What it does is it compares the ratio of the first highest, divides it by the second highest. To give an example, I am just going into this electricity charges, 13.39, I just click enter. What it does is, if you can notice, my dear friends, I'm trying to zoom the screen a little. Okay, you can notice over here the RSF. 75,000 divided by 5,600. How did I get that? Look at this. The first highest divided by second highest. And you notice that all of these are more or less looking same. 4,000, 4,500, 5,000, 5,000. But you find a huge deviation between the first highest and the second highest. And trust me, that is because this is perhaps an error. Let's see what it is. I'll go click on 75,000. I go click on this. Okay. Control enter. Look at this entry. It says purchase of generator has gone to electricity charges. So in a click, in a instant case, you're able to identify capex versus opex. If additional zeros have been passed, additional zeros have been moved, all of these are possible, and that's simply how you can do your tally based analytics. Okay, and you have various other analytics which you can do. For example, interbranch transaction. Many cases, again, many people make a lot of frauds in this particular thing. So interbank transactions is one more area where perhaps fraud could occur. Cash withdrawals and deposit, fixed asset analysis, what is the ratio, number of assets opened for less than 180 days, more than 180 days, because we require it for a tax audit purpose, correct? And then you have one very interesting thing, highest and lowest value transactions. So every ledger, earlier we saw first highest and second highest. Now here we have highest and lowest amount. Now here you can also choose to filter based on the sorted, based on range decreasing. Now look at this, what happens? You have cash where 20 lakh is the highest amount, 1 rupee is the least. So you can see what the range is. Now OD account, okay, this may be possible because 10 rupees could have been bank charges, whereas 2 lakh 50. But look into certain other things. They have this All India Computer Institute. Why would you have 40 lakh as to 500? Right? So like this, you get some interesting insights, and that, my dear friends, is highest to lowest. Okay, so like this, there are a bunch of them which I would obviously leave it to you to explore, and you also have some interesting information. You can definitely explore that. So that is the second bucket which I wanted to make a mention over here on the second case study, which is basically a tally based case study. The third case study which I want to take you through is if we can use an Excel spreadsheet. Once again, let me quickly come into that Excel spreadsheet. Here it is. And here what I will do is I'm using a third-party tool, and this tool is called as ECAT. Okay, it's by a company by name Windsor Infotech. Again, a third-party tool, but let's focus more on the functions, what I'm doing, and not on whether it's A tool or B tool, because I prefer speaking tool agnostic, but let's always understand the features and the concepts which we have to learn. Let's take an example. I have the sales data with me. Okay, sale date, sales, invoice number, name of dealer, region, product, color, unit sold. I have so much of information. Now you might be wondering, if I have so much of data, a simple Excel sheet, I just have probably about 5 to 6. Now, in the traditional style, what you will do is that you will take this entire information, prepare a pivot, and start going with it. Now, if you use a data analytics software, your approach changes. This data analytics software has got 4 to 5 functions. The first function broadly is curate or cleansing the data. The second is profiling or grouping the data. The third is analyzing, and fourth is investigating. And then a bunch of documents, various things. Now what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can group this data based upon the sales. So I go click on data, Okay, sorry, I go click on, before that, if you remember, I also spoke about something called as statistics earlier. You know, in a table, I'll just show a compare and contrast how an Excel and this differs. So if you remember in an Excel sheet, what I did, I chose the entire column and I went and clicked the sum total. Now here, what I'm going to do is I click on this detail tabs and I'm going to click on what is called as column statistics. Let's see what happens. It takes a few minutes. But yes, so it says there are three types of statistics: numeric statistics, date statistics, and characteristic statistics. I repeat, numeric, date, and character. But the moment I click on numeric, it tells me there are only three fields which are numeric in nature: invoice number, sales, and units sold. Now what I will do is I want this software to give me some statistics about all of this information, and let's just wait for a few seconds what it is going to do. Okay, so let's see what it is going to do. It's going to take a few minutes. There you go. It has analyzed all the three columns. In a click of a button, it has given me certain useful information which otherwise would have been little difficult for me to figure out. Example, the invoice number, it has average of positive records, may not be relevant, but sales and units sold average of positive records may make sense. Look into number of negative records, none of them have it, so no worries. Total number of records, look at this, 6666 versus 6663. Positive records, total records. So what is your inference immediately on this? Because if you read these three information carefully, you will realize total 6,666 records are there, of which 3 records, are basically null value. And number of positive records is only 6663. That means 3 invoices, invoice number is not there. And whatever you see in this blue color, just double click it. You already have your audit finding ready. All that you will do is save this as an Excel sheet or save as a separate sheet. You have the data ready. You can just say save as invoice number missing, send it to the client, or send it in a separate Excel sheet and say, hey, you know what, this is missing. Then go into this number of distinct records is only 6650. Why is it only 6650? That means there should be some issue over there. So some values are getting duplicated. So probably click on this. You will get to know all these distinct records. So these are the unique invoice numbers. If you want, save it. Do not want, ignore it. Correct? You can drill down. This is a powerful feature. You can drill down. See, look at this. All sales at 25 lakh rupees is appearing over here. And you just took less than probably, if I have to say maybe about 10 seconds to go navigate which function to use and then go ahead and properly save as. Correct? So you can obviously save it additionally. I will just make it as Excel over here. And like this, what you can do is you can do a bunch of these functions and calculations. So that is step number 1 method which is there. And just for your reference, you also have a feature called index. You can just say index sheets and it will sort of update this entire index and it will update it for you. So your index sheet will get updated with all of this information and it will give a cross-referencing and cross-linking. Sometimes this works a little slow when I'm using a Zoom app. So you'll have to give me a few minutes for that. Yeah, sorry. Let me quickly share my screen once again. Okay, so we were discussing about this data set, correct? I just showed you one function, which is basically what is called as column statistics. Let me go into one more function to see how you can do what is called stratification. And this time I will do a numeric stratification. Okay, so I have this information over here. What I do is I'll quickly click on sales, and I'll ask the system to sort of, calculate these sale values automatically and give me this interesting information. Let's say I create an incremental value of 25,000, quickly say fill in this data. You can notice that all the class intervals are auto-filled. If you believe that you don't want this class intervals, you can choose a free interval of your own choice and edit these values. So both these options are available. You can choose an upper limit and you can sort of, type it. So I'm choosing an auto interval so that I can save time on it, and I'm just going to say fill. And the moment I'm done, I can also create a growth factor rate, and I just say, please run this. Let's see what the result is. There you go. Click of a button, everything is ready. Count of sales, percentage of count of sales, sum of sales, percentage of sum of sales. What is the strata? What is the running total? What is the growth factor? And what is the growth rate? Of course, the first growth factor is 1 because it's previous is 0 and 100%. But then you have very interesting information. Look at this. The growth between the previous and this class interval is 189%. Now imagine if we could analyze data like this and give interesting insights. I just clicked on one button, my dear friends, one button. That's it. Correct. So that is what a powerful data analytics software can do for you. Right? There are a bunch of these softwares. I'm just showing one of these as an example. Let's quickly move ahead to some more analysis. Probably what I will do is I will classify. This is my favorite function. Now I have this data, which is region, product, color code. Correct. So what I'll do is I'll quickly click on this and I'll say classify. And I'm going to tell the system, hey, can you please classify based on all the three? So I'm going to say, please classify based on region, based on product type, and based on color. And summarize only sales and maybe units sold. Okay. And give me percentage, average, minimum, and max. Okay. And if I want, I can ask them the system to group by, compute, bunch of hundreds of features are there. I will simply keep on to this basic thing and I'll just say, okay. Now see what it does. It takes a few minutes. Okay. I think I've not given some inputs. Okay, yeah. One of the inputs is this classified. Look at this. East, west, north, south. It is classified. It has given me your entire count. Okay, count of region, percentage of region, sum of the sales, correct? Percentage of the sales. Then I have average of sales. Then I have minimum sales, maximum sales. Look at this, each region. Now, the same thing, I have it based on the numeric information. Correct. So the option is just available. I just have hundreds of options. I just can execute them at a click of a button. And the beauty about this is everything keeps on getting saved. And not just that, it has an audit log too. Correct. So if you go click on the log and click on workbook history, it tells you what all workbooks you have worked on. Correct. And it can also tell you, your audit logs in terms of what all the functions you did. You click on 9th of September and you say view, it says you have done classify based on the sales. Of course, before the previous one, it will not show because, I just exited the Excel sheet in an abrupt fashion. But yes, so look at these powerful features. Okay, so that's basically on the profiling piece of it. And I'll probably show you one more very interesting thing is the aging part of it. And here what I will do is I will show you something called as the inventory data. Of course, this is a data set which is generated, but let's probably show you a quick thing on the inventory data. Okay, so I have an inventory over here and it says the purchase list. What I want to do is I want to know the aging of my inventory. So for that, I go click on aging. The moment I go click on aging, my dear friends, a quick window appears and it says, when is the aging you want to do? I say I want to do the aging as of March 31st. It says minimum interval is 0, maximum is 1093. Bucket them under the intervals. And not just this, I also tell the system, group this entire thing based upon your particulars, which is your inventory description. And let's see how I get this interesting insights. Okay, let's quickly see what the answer is. So I'm just running this. It takes a few seconds. Now look at this. It gives me interesting insights of each and every bucket. Okay, now if I go here, the beauty about this, I can double click this and you can sort of, modify them. Just sort it and move it. All that I will do is I'll move this particulars over here, so I know product wise which is the inventory aging history. Now I just want to choose all of them from upper bound, that is greater than 1093 days. Look at this. I have a HCL Cellron product which I purchased at almost for 5 lakh rupees, and it is still outstanding. I've not been able to sell this. If I just double click this, it says you have purchased this in 3rd of April 2017. Even until 31st of March, you're not able to sell it. Now tell me how difficult or easy it is for you to prepare this type of a data set. It becomes very complicated, and there's a simple function. Just I did a aging analysis and I grouped them based on a category. Correct. So you have bunch of these, and of course it also has a smart feature where you can sort of look up, take up anything. For example, choose a period, or you can choose period 8, period 7. Correct. So it gives you the bunch of all of these things, and it's dynamic filter. Correct. So you want only percentage greater than a particular number. Look at this. Where is 12.89%? HC Cellron, which is 270 to 300 days. Now this may actually give you a problem. Correct. So you have hundreds of features, and not to forget, my dear friend, you have to go click on these Excel charts. You can convert it into Excel charts as well. Okay, so that's something which I wanted to take you through on how the data is. It has details, you can do some search, etc. A lot of things. The next thing which I'll spend a few minutes is to sort of see how you can sort of analyze it from a analyze tab perspective. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, my dear friends, is that just give me a minute. What I'll do is I'll go back to my sales, and now I'll go identify. I want to identify, are there any duplicate invoices? So I go click on identify, click on duplicates, and just say give me duplicate invoice numbers. Okay, what it does, it runs through this entire data set and tells me if which of the fields you want duplicate. So I obviously want for invoice number. I want, do I want the details? Do I want the summary? The choice is mine. I can just click on OK. It just in a click of a button, it says what are the duplicate numbers. The challenge is not in this. The challenge is if I have to identify gaps. Now look at this. I get to know these are the duplicate numbers. This is fairly easy for me to catch hold of. Otherwise, also in Excel, how do I do it? I have to go choose column statistics, or sorry, what is that? Column formatting. So I click on this entire data. I go to home, and then go to conditional formatting, and then I go click on duplicate values. So the moment I click on this, here you have, correct. Again, I need to apply a filter, then go, do a pull drop down, and then choose all the data set which is with a different color code, filter by color code, and click on this. So this is the difference between how an Excel can work and how a data analytics software can work. You can see how quick and fast it is, correct? So again, please be reminded, data analytics software can be a separate software or a software like this, which is an add-on to Excel. So hundreds of options are available. Okay, so let's quickly come back. I was talking about a use case which I was explaining. So we spoke about identify, correct? We can also do what is called as outlier analysis. I'm not sure how many of them have tried to do this sort of analysis. I do it when we do an audit. We do an outlier by number. And when we do an outlier by number, what we do is I say, give me all cases where the sales is maybe 3 or 5 times more than that of the average. The moment I do this and I say, okay, I am able to actually, okay, so it says there is no sales which is 5 times more than the average. So what I'll do is I'll probably go to outliers and give me all sales, which is 2 times that of average. Okay, for simplicity's sake. Okay, sales 2 times of the average, and I can quickly run this. Okay, and it can run this entire data function. Okay, it's saying that most of them are within the average range, so which is good for me. Correct. So it can do these sort of analysis and give me at a click of a button. And I'm not sure how many of them are aware, sampling is also possible. Look at the ways in which sampling is possible. You can sample by selection, by criteria, by profile, by analysis. And let me tell you, of course, this is a specific data analytics software exclusively, predominantly for audit. You can do a lot more things out of it, but the beauty of this is a lot of functions, from an auditor angle is sort of embedded into it. But if you look into things like Python, R, etc., they also have these features, but you have to manually write that code. Correct. So that's where is the difference between using an analytics software versus you using Excel or Python. You have to start from scratch. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly click on, give me the stratification of this entire population based on numeric values. Okay. And this is going to be a repeat of what I did in the previous step. Let's see what the outcome is. Okay. So here I'm going to click on sales. Okay. I go click on fill, and once this is done, I click OK. We already have seen this output, but what we have not seen is something which is going to come up now. Look at this. I already know how my sales are, but what I have not seen over here is an option called as sampling. I click on the sampling. Okay. Here, can you see I have an option to pick up the sample size. So if I choose 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, whatever is the sample size I've chosen for, my dear friends, it will pick up the top 10 or the top 3 in each of these class interval, or it can go pick up randomly from each of these intervals and it will give me the extract of it. So see how much of insights are possible and how well you can plan your audit by using simple methods in different techniques. And all that you have to do is assign this to your article staff. He will actually go ahead and do it. So it gives you a sort of a command by using these. No doubt by Excel also you can use it. Excel also has got very handy, but the way in which this can be used, or tools like this, it gives you a lot more preferences. Okay, so that's basically what these softwares can, or these functions can do rather. Okay, let's quickly come back. So we spoke about analyze. Okay, there are some interesting things of analyze also. Let me show you that interesting thing. That's called as a fuzzy match. Okay, let me see if I can show you a fuzzy match, how it works. I should have that data set. Give me a minute. Because getting the data set. Yeah. So I have this journal entry which comes from Tally. Okay. And I noticed that here many a times this check number 93 has been interchanged and used. Of course, there's dummy data. But yes, of course, I've sanitized the data, because otherwise what happens, live data of client, we cannot show it, right? So I've sanitized this data. What we have done is I've sort of cleansed this data and given, if you notice, the same text is written multiple times. It's more like invoice number writing multiple times, etc. Now, can I do an analysis to figure out these cases? So that is possible, and this is called as a fuzzy match. So what I do is I go click on this fuzzy match and I say, arrange all the text, okay, which is quite similar in nature, or which is having some sort of information. So I just go here and I choose which is that column. The column is transaction description, and split value either by space, comma. For this time being, I will just choose space, and I will just say okay, and or I'll tell him find the duplicates and give it to him. So what it does is it runs through this entire column E. Based on space, if there is any alterations, it gives me that. Look at this. Transaction description is purchase of HDD, purchase HDD of. Whereas if I arrange them, this is what is the nomenclature. So now this, as an auditor, you can go and quickly have a fix of this. Now, if you run this, if you have to do this type of an analysis, my dear friends, let me tell you, it is going to become almost next to impossible. So what the software does is, let me tell you, I can also tell you how, if you script it in a Python or R, how it works is, it will actually arrange all of this in an order. Okay. It will basically pick up one of these orders, first pick up the first value item, whatever it chooses, and sort of arrange them in that order and try to bring that. Now in your Excel, how easy or difficult is to do this? I would say extremely challenging. Correct. So that is where these softwares have unique advantages, and it is sort of arrange this information also. So I know, in fact, what I can do is now after having arranged this, I can run a simple duplicate check. I can simply say how many cases are with auto 20. Okay, there's only one. How many of them are with courier charges? Okay, there's only one. But are there cases with much more? Correct. So I can do those sort of checks. So let's quickly move on. So that's basically, a few of these functions. Let me also see if I can show you some other interesting features which are quite powerful. Identify changes. Let me see if that is possible. I have the data of employees November and December. Okay, let me see how this can be done. If I notice this, both the data sets are same. Okay, both the data sets are same with some small minor variation. So now what I'm going to do is I go say, give me the changes between this sheet and that sheet. Okay, let's see quickly how it runs. So I am choosing employee November, and I'm also going to choose over here ECAT sample data, and I'm going to choose employees December. Okay, and what is it I wanted to show? Display only new sheet records and identify the cells which have changed with green color or with probably a red color, and identify cells that have not changed with a modest violet, the bluish, whatever color you can call it. And let's just click on OK. Now look at this. It sort of did a enter one shot. It did a VLOOKUP and it gave me. Now imagine these sort of analysis. Now this is very handy when you're doing, your client gives you multiple versions of your trial balance. You have to use it. So there are hundreds of functions like this, my dear friends. The question is only how you want to get started with it, correct? So that's basically what I wanted to cover as a case study 3 in terms of what is possible. Or it's, of course, I only spoke about what are the possible functions. Let me also, show 2 more things before we wrap up and open it for Q&A. I know it's almost coming to a close of the session. So let me quickly show one very interesting thing. I'll show you a procurement audit, how it can be done. That may become an easier case because you will understand how end-to-end you can do an audit. Because I've been showing everything in piecemeal. So let me show you a procurement audit. Now I have this data set. Okay, if you see here, the data is sorted, or if you see, notice over here, this entire column, there is no data, correct? And if I notice over here, column I and J, there is a merge, but there is no data over here. And if I look in over here, pay terms, the heading is merged, everything's there. See, it becomes too much of a headache for me to worry about all this. All that I will do is I'll go click on transform. Okay, I will just say, boss, you clean up this data, harmonize the data. Okay, I'm telling the software, please clean it up. Okay, it says undo is not possible. Okay, sorry, I think I'll have to choose harmonize sheet. Okay, I'm going to tell the software, hey, can you please clean this up for me? So it has a bunch of these options. I don't have so much patience. I just say select all the basic options, and I know that I don't require the top 10 cells. So I remove top 10 cells. Okay, and please note over here the 10 cells, whatever is there, those are not required. I click on OK. It just sort of cleans it up at a click of a button. Okay, let's see how the interesting data is, how you can perform these analysis. Okay, and in the meanwhile, let me also jump and show you one other screen. This is where you can do the number of analysis which you can do for a procurement audit. This, of course, I picked up from IDEA's guide on data analytics. IDEA is another software which has interesting features again. The interesting feature in our case of IDEA is it has standalone multiple features it has. So that is the reason which you can notice over here. So analysis, calculation, gap duplicates, exception test, etc. What we will do is we'll try to apply a few of these tests on our procurement data. Okay. By the way, look at this data, how clean it has become. Remember how the data was looking earlier? Now see how the data has become clean, very cleansed up, and it is easy for your analysis. In fact, it has these hyperlinks. If you want that also, you can remove it, remove all these hyperlinks or broken links, etc. I think there's some option. If I click on remove all the hyperlinks, it sort of cleans up this entire data. Okay, so look at this. It also says where all there is some sort of hyperlinks. I just say, boss, please remove it. I don't want all this information. Look at this. Earlier you had some hyperlink information. Now let's go back to this sort of checklist. Let's see if you can apply any of these functions. Okay, gaps and duplicates are my favorite. Test for duplicate payments or invoices. Okay, test for duplicate payments and invoices. How do I test the duplicate payment for invoices? So, or you also have test for duplicate bank accounts, duplicate purchase numbers, duplicate invoice payments. So let's do a simple check. If I have an invoice number over here or a PO number, correct? Can there be a duplicate PO number? Correct. So all that I will do is go to identify, click on duplicates, identify duplicates, and say, hey, please help me out with identifying duplicate PO numbers. Okay, so let's quickly say okay. It takes a few minutes or a few seconds. It runs on it, and it gives me what are the PO numbers which are appearing duplicate. Of course, this data set does not have invoice numbers. You can also apply that. So you can see a bunch of these are there, correct? Now let's do one more analysis. I'm not saving it for, otherwise the file consumption space will be much higher. Now what I will do over here is I will change the approach. Now what I'm going to do now is, instead of me choosing duplicates or identify the duplicate gaps, etc., what I'm going to do is I am going to click on duplicates with something which is very interesting called as same, different. Meaning 2 items are same, 1 item is different. This is a very powerful function of analytics. Okay, now I know many cases the vendor name is same or when material code is same, but he has supplied different unit price. I repeat, vendor name is same, material code is same, the price at which he supplied is different. And this could be extremely handy for me to catch hold of it. So let's quickly click on OK and see what the system does. It takes a few minutes. It is able to analyze these things and give me in a click of a button. It says this vendor has supplied this particular material at different prices. So I can double click them and sort of drill down. Look at this. It says, look at this, the same vendor, the same material price is either supplied at different prices or based on location it is changing. Another example could be, I go click on this, look at this GB 1657 and 1657, one time unit price is 5,000, here unit prices. So like this, you get a lot of interesting insights. If you're doing a bank analysis, my dear friends, what you can do is, in case of a bank, you will know that same customer ID, different PAN. Correct? If you are into SAP Oracle, same GL code rolling up to different parents. So like that, you can do a bunch of these analysis in a very, very simple terms. There's one more thing which I really like, and this is called as a Crosstab function. Okay, by the way, whenever I forget some function where it is, I just go over here, I go click on this ECAT, search and run, and I just ask it to, type it, I get this. So this is a trend line function. Let's run this trend line function. I want the trend of all the, if I could probably call it as material code. And I want the trend line based on unit price. Okay, and let it arrange it on a descending order. Okay, so I am choosing material code, unit price, descending order. Let's see what the interesting result I'm going to get. Okay, so the expectation is I want to see what is the rate of change of my material unit price. Okay, so let's see how this is going to turn out. It of course takes a few minutes because it has to analyze the whole set of data. Sometimes it may take more than few minutes, but of course in my case, luckily data is smaller in size. Look at this. Each of this data set, it is arranged it in the ascending to descending order, and it tells me this product always has a uniform thing. Okay, this product, it is 2984, but all of a sudden there is something which has gone to 2400, it's gone to 2200. Correct? And look at this product, 160, 160, 100, and it is gone down to 106. Maybe that gentleman while entering, he entered 106 as 160 as 106 or vice versa. Perhaps these itself should not have been entered. It should have been entered only as 106. Correct. So like this, in a click of a button, you can realize how much of powerful features, or how much of the ways in which you can actually analyze. Okay, coming back to my checklist. So we did a few of these things. Correct. You can do exception tests, old data tests, a whole lot of these things are available. But considering the time and situation, I'm going to only show a few of these things. Okay, so we can also do sampling. I think sampling, we also saw that. Let me also see if I can show you an MIS report. Okay, this is another interesting feature. Now, if I click on this MIS report, let's see what I get. This is quite similar to what a pivot can do. Okay, so it says no date field available because it is not identified this as a date field. So I need to go convert this into a date field. I need to transform this, or remove the spaces. So I have a few of these options available: format, transpose, delete. Correct. So I'm going to choose a convert to date. This function will convert the date. So I realize that the system is not picking up the date because there's some issue. So I'm going to convert this into a date field. Okay, and in Excel, how do I convert it into a date field? You have home tab, or rather data tab, text to columns. Click on this next, click on this date, choose this as DMY and finish it. You have your date field ready. Okay, just for your reference, what you can do is whenever you have a date field ready, just do Alt down arrow. If you're able to get the view like this, okay, which is nothing but under filter, that means your date field is ready. Okay, so once this is done, now I'm going back to my software just to show that feature. I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to prepare what is called as an MIS. When I prepare an MIS, let's see what happens. I just say, give me the PO date and please quantify only the amount. I don't want anything more than that. Okay, and I can go click on MIS tab. What is it that I want? I want count, sum, percentage. Okay, so I'm going to say, please give me based on, okay, the PO date, the amount field, and give me an MIS report with terms of, day of the week, or week of the day, or let's say month, or, day of the month. I can just click on a few of these. I'm just showing one or two. Okay, for otherwise it will take a long time to run this. So I'll quickly run this. It takes a few seconds and it gives me in different spreadsheets or different output, monthly, quarterly, yearly analysis, which I requested. This is quite similar to that Excel sheet which I showed you, how you can group and ungroup the values. Okay, so it is actually running this function in the backend. Okay, and once it is able to display these results, we will get some interesting information. Okay, so let's see how that values look like. Okay, so it's taking a few minutes to run this. Let me quickly see what the output is. Okay, just to bring to the context, sometimes what happens is when you are using it on Zoom, there is a tendency for this sheet to get sort of hung up. Okay, because you are sharing it, so it takes a little longer. Okay, so let's quickly see how this has turned out to be. I go to ECAT, I go to analysis, I have go to MIS. Okay, I'm on the procurement data. We have already cleansed up so that we are able to analyze. I just say PO date, run it on amount, click on MIS, and I just say, month. Okay, and we just say okay. Okay, so what it does is it gives me interesting information. Look at this. Month wise, of course, with the year, what is the count? What is the sum? Now I can obviously choose much more. I can go ahead and choose min, max, everything put together. Correct. So if I just go click here, and this time instead of choosing a month, let's say I choose a quarter. Correct. So I have so many features. So I just say select all and just give me quarterly analysis, and I just say okay. So all your pivot time to make it, break it, all of them is going to be taken care by this tool itself. Okay, so that's basically the powerful function what is capable of. Look at this Q3, July to September, Q4, October to December. Please note it will obviously present based on the Excel's view, because Excel we have that quarter based on the calendar year. Now imagine how much time if I was doing this it will take in an Excel spreadsheet. The answer is obviously significant. Correct. So that is something which I thought I'll take you through, my dear friends, so that I'm sure you have an idea, so you know where we stand and how these things work on. So I've spoken about most of these features. Okay, so in terms of how they work, what they do, etc. And I hope you got some interesting ideas in terms of an Excel to analytics to a software such as this, what it can practically do. So the last thing which I'm going to speak about, my dear friends, is a few practical tips on selecting using data analytics tool. Okay, so whenever you use any data analytics tool, keep in mind it should have a potential to analyze a large set of data. Okay, so ability to analyze the entire large population. It should be capable for importing it easily, allowing accessing, joining multiple sources, provides commands and functions for analysis. It should perhaps be able to generate a sort of an audit trail, supporting centralized access, and provides you the ability to automate it. So many of the times people ask me, sir, what are the analytics tools which are available? Just to give you an example, Excel itself can be used as analytic tool. So many things are there. Second, you can use an Excel based add-on like ECAT, QUT tools. You have fuzzy match. Excel itself has a few free add-ons. You can just go explore. Now, if you are dealing with large set of data, if you want a separate data analytics tool, we have ID and ACL. You also have, if you want visualization tools, we have Tableau, we have Power BI, we have Zoho Analytics. So all these are the multiple bunch of tools which are available. Okay, so please keep in mind, depending upon how and what you want to do, you can decide your tool which you are going to adopt. And at the end of the day, let me tell you, to solve a larger problem, even a simpler tool may probably be handy enough. To give it in a nutshell, maybe to solve or to to cut the wood, an axe may be enough, or maybe a mechanized system may be enough. But you don't require a huge machine, correct? Or to chop a vegetable, a knife is enough. Why do you require a machine gun? Correct. So you'll have to understand what is the relevance of it. These are a few other sessions where I've spoken on data analytics, and on purpose I've not covered what I've spoken in those places. I've tried to make it very different. Of course, I've tried to show as much as possible practical insights. Hope you got some thought process. This is about us. We are Ken & Co. We are a firm based out of Bangalore. Predominantly, we do something on technology, risk, and consulting. And this is something which I've had passion to share my knowledge with my fellow members and my colleagues, and I'll be happy to take questions. These are a few of the things. Okay, many of the times they ask me, sir, is technology having future potential? What all services can I do in technology? I did my DISA. I don't get any IT engagements. My dear friends, these are a few illustrative cases where you can actually do things, correct? So these are a few of the things, in fact, we are doing in our office. So you have a full plethora of opportunities. The question is only, we need to awaken and mind and start thinking about the larger picture. On this, thank you so much. I'll be happy to take questions.
Dear friends, any questions?
I know it was a marathon session. I had to cover quite a number of things. But yes, let me also tell you the advantage of technology. This is available on YouTube. Feel free to play it any number of times and listen to it, and you get that added advantage as well.
Yes. Any questions?
So no questions means they understood everything or they didn't understand anything. For a better perspective, I'll presume that they've understood everything. Okay, so I think we are good. Over to you, sir.
Now I request Cherianji Samuel, the Secretary of the Trivandrum branch, to express the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Respected chairmen of all the branches, Speaker of the Day, and dear fellow members. I consider it as a great privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of the managing committees of all the branches to all the dignitaries who have made it convenient to attend this valedictory session of three-day virtual program on information technology. First day, we have heard how digital disruption has changed the accounting profession. What does digital disruption look like in the audit and accounting space? Second day emphasized on technology impact, the potential areas of auditors' focus. While emerging technologies can bring about great opportunities and efficiencies for a business, they also bring with new challenges. Today, we had an extensive practical session on data analytics. We had a glance on data to action, how data sets have grown, types of data analytics like classification analysis, segmentation, etc., and an extensive practical session. I wish to express our appreciation to the Speaker of the Day, C. Narasimhan Elangovan, for delivering a truly inspiring session on the concept and practice of data analytics. Thank you, sir. We would like to thank our immediate past chairman of SARCC, Jomon K. George, for the truly inspiring inaugural address. We had a very exhaustive procedure to get the approval from the CPE Directorate. The event got the green signal only after the intervention from our Central Council member, C. Babu Abraham Kallivayil. Every time when we called him for help, he always helped us in getting things done. This shows his dedication towards the CF fraternity. I must express my deep gratitude to our Babu sir for the effective intervention. I would like to thank all the managing committee members of all the 4 branches, especially the chairmen, CA Anil Parameswaran, CA Dilip S, CA Hari Krishnan R, and in the absence of the chairman of the Alappuzha branch, Vice Chairman CA Rajneesh Murthy, for making this event a reality. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our informed audience, without whose participation and involvement, no such webinar is complete. Thank you all for joining with us. With this, we are signing off for now. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It was wonderful, large participation. The 3 days went on well. Thank you all.
Thank you.